So this should be interesting. We're here with the HDMI video capture card. This is the BlueAVS version that they sell on Amazon. And this kind of defied my expectations. So let's go ahead and check it out. Alright, so we are here with this HDMI capture card, a USB 2.0 HDMI capture card. And initially, I completely 110% dismissed this thing. My sister asked me about it because she recently got a camera. This was before she actually bought the camera, but she was looking for something that she could use to, use the camera as a webcam. And I just recommended the Elgato 4K cam link because that's like the #1 thing that everybody recommended. But due to the pandemic, pretty much all webcams and Elgato products have been sold out. And if you find one, they're like way marked up. So the cam link 4K is usually $130. It was selling for like over $200. And I was like, I'd wait for that to come back in stock because I know it's a good product. And she sent me this and I was like, it's USB 2.0. It had good reviews on Amazon, but I was like, I would avoid it. And also I didn't know if it supported, multiple applications like, Zoom and Skype and the other webcam applications. It said it did on the webpage, but I really didn't believe it. I was very skeptical. I think at the time it was around $30-something. And I was like, how is this thing for $30, going to compete with a product that's $130 and claim to do the same thing, but just at 1080p with 30 frames per second. And then what happened was a few weeks later, I watched the Epos Vox video because I think he had some skepticism as well. But then he tried it and, based on his video, I was like, wow, this thing actually seems like it's amazing. The other thing I learned from his video was that apparently they just sell this under a bunch of different brands, but it's the same card. If you actually look at this, it has no branding on it, really. Like, even this box really has no branding. The only thing that says BlueAVS is the Amazon sticker. So what happens is there are a lot of different companies that are just selling the same exact capture card for anywhere between like $15 and $50. At the time when my sister showed it to me, it was like $30-something. I ended up getting it for like around $25 after tax the time that I bought it, but you can find it on Newegg for even cheaper than that, just under different brands, and it's the exact same capture card. So what comes in the box is the card itself and then a USB 2 extension cable. So if you don't want to plug this directly into your computer, it comes with a little extension cable, but you can always get a cheap one, if you need something longer, considering that this is USB 2.0. I was surprised by how good a quality this is. Like the outside casing on this is metal, and I was really not expecting that for this price point. And apparently, at least according to the box, I haven't actually tried it, this can accept 4K input, which makes sense. It just downscales it to 1080p 30, but the max it can do is 30 frames per second. And I actually already have a device that I use for HDMI capture for my camera, which it is this, the Elgato HD60. I think I bought this for around $160 a little over a year ago. I think it retails for $180, but this is also a 1080p capture device, which makes this even more interesting. It's just 1080p 60. This can go up to 60 frames. This is kind of capped off at 30. This also has an HDMI in, and it has a separate audio in if you needed to capture audio separate for whatever reason. And it has an HDMI out, which means, if you're recording like a video game system, you can output it to the TV so you can record, capture the footage on your computer and then still be able to play on a TV, at least at 1080p. Whereas this, it's only HDMI in. You can capture a video game system, but there's no way to output it, at least from the card directly. You could always get like an HDMI splitter and split off the signal. Epos Vox actually did that in his video. I'm not really going to do any game testing here. And I really don't even use this for gaming. I really just use this to record the podcast that I do, DMMR, with my friend Dijon. Shameless promotion. Go check it out. After watching that video, I was like, I really want to get my hands on this and have the experience myself and see how it is. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to connect this up and we're going to do a little latency test so you can get an idea of what the latency is like and what the picture quality is like. And then I'm going to hook this up, which this is a USB 3.0 device. And that way you can get an idea of what, again, the latency and the picture quality is like between both of these. There's also a fatal limitation with this, which makes it not really work for what I needed it for, that I'm going to discuss after we do this little test. So this is a latency test. This is with the HDMI capture card. I'm just recording the video off of my computer for the iPhone, so that way I can sync up the audio with the internal capture from the camera to make sure that I'm actually capturing the latency correctly. So I'm going to sync up the audio later from my camera that I'm recording from internally, and that way you can get an idea of what the latency looks like in comparison to what's being sent out on the screen. But I have to say, from here, it looks pretty good. The latency doesn't seem like it's too bad, honestly, at least if you're using it for camera purposes. The colors might look weird in that video because, yeah, it looks weird when I record videos without color grading it. So this is a latency test for the Elgato HD60. Of course, this does perform better than the $20 HDMI capture card. I would expect it to for like $160 more, but it's up to you what you think. I mean, yeah, it's better, but is it, $160 better? I'm not sure. It's going to depend on what you need. Like, yeah, definitely for gaming, the HD60 seems like it'd be a better choice, but if you're on a budget, I don't know. You saw the latency test, you saw the quality difference. I think the Elgato does look a little bit better now that I've done like the kind of side-by-side comparison, just a little bit. But overall, for 20 bucks or $20 to $50, I would shop around for this thing, honestly, just because the price varies so much, but I wouldn't spend more than $30 on it. And not because it's not worth it. Honestly, if this was $50, I still think that for what you get, this would be worth it. But for the fact that you can get it for like sometimes under $20, I would definitely not just hop on it if it was $50. I would look for something that was cheaper, just because they sell this under so many different names. For me telling my sister, like, no, don't buy that thing, and then seeing that video and trying it for myself, but yeah, this thing really blew me away, defied my expectations. Now, there is a reason that I'm not going to be using it for my podcast. So with my podcast, what I do is I record my stream on the computer in OBS, and then also I'm sending my stream out to Dijon so that way he can see me through the same camera, and this thing cannot do that. So interestingly enough, I found out because I think I was recording episode 3 of the podcast, and we got everything set up, and I was like, I'm excited to kind of put this card through its paces. And usually, well, that episode in particular, it took like an hour to set up. So I had this whole thing set up for like an hour, just kind of being amazed by it, that I was able to do this for such a cheap card. I was recording at OBS. We use Facebook right now just because it's the most convenient, because you don't have to install anything. I just make his video full screen and record the full screen, and then put, my internal capture side by side in OBS, and then I record OBS. That also allows me to switch, because I have the Elgato Stream Deck Mini. It sounds like I'm advertising for them. It really does. I just happen to have a lot of their products. The Stream Deck Mini I really only bought because I was like on Best Buy's the other day, one day for $50, and I was like, this might come in handy. And it does. For various reasons, it does come in handy, just having the shortcut key set up. Anyway, completely different product. I've never really talked about it on the channel, but I do have one that I use for like various things. So yeah, I like being able to have my direct capture instead of capturing like the conversation as it shows up in Facebook Messenger with my little window and his big window, or any of the messenger platforms. To be honest, whether it's Zoom or Skype or whatever, I'd rather have my direct capture and then, make the other person full screen and just capture theirs directly if I'm doing something like a podcast. Especially something that's mainly focused on audio and I don't want to do a bunch of video editing after. So with this, if you're recording at OBS and you try to do a video call, so like on Facebook, it gives you, the hardware can't be detected. So today I made a new scene in OBS with just the capture card, and then I would open OBS, and I tried Facebook, got the same message, hardware access error. If I close OBS, then it worked. It let me make the call. I also tried with Skype. It's the same situation. It doesn't give you a hardware access error. Skype, it just gives you a black screen. I also tried with Zoom. It's the same thing with Zoom. So yeah, it will just give you a black screen. So OBS will be up and I'll see the picture, and then I'll get a black screen in the other application unless I close OBS. This can't send the signal to more than one application at a time, which is probably just a limitation of the bandwidth of USB 2.0. So that's when you start to run into USB 2.0 being more of an issue than just, you know, being a little bit slower, you know, a little bit more latency than USB 3. Now, with the HD60, this was not an issue at all. So I went ahead and did the same test with the HD60, and in all 3 scenarios with Facebook, Zoom, and Skype. So I was able to easily record from OBS while doing the video call and any other application. And the only thing I could think is just because of, like I said, the bandwidth from USB 2.0 isn't enough for it to send the stream to multiple applications at the same time. So maybe in that scenario where if you want the easiest setup, if for whatever reason you're doing that, like you're recording some kind of podcast like I am, or one of those situations, that yeah, it might make sense to get something like the HD60 or the Cam Link, because they're not going to have that issue. But outside of that very specific scenario, this thing kind of rocks. And honestly, there are a few things you could probably try to alleviate it. Like I said earlier, you could technically just record the whole screen. Like, you know, just record it as it shows up in the application with your window and the other person's window if you're really trying to, you know, record it. Or you could technically, and I haven't tested this, so I'm not 100% sure if it would work, but this is cheap enough where it might be worth the risk. You could technically buy 2 of these and set one up as OBS as the capture device, set the other one up to be your calling device, and then split the HDMI connection from the camera. Like buy an HDMI splitter and just split the HDMI connection from your camera into both of these, and just, you know, run 2 of these at the same time, one for streaming and then one for direct capture. That would still be a lot cheaper, because like, let's say if you got each of these for $20, I'm going to assume that the HDMI splitter cable might be like $15 to $20. So if we're looking at about $60, that's still a lot less, even compared to the Elgato Cam Link 4K, which is still $130 retail, which good luck if you could find one. Now, like I said, I haven't tested that solution, and then you also have a lot of variables in between there, like if your computer can handle that, if your camera is capable of, you know, splitting the HDMI signal. So that may or may not work, but it will be worth trying. Maybe one day I'll try it. Let me know if you're interested in having me try it. I'll definitely go out and buy another one of these and get an HDMI splitter and try it and report back if you're interested. Like I said, let me know in the comments. But yeah, other than that limitation, I'd say that this thing for $20 is pretty amazing, and it's really hard to recommend buying like the Elgato capture card. Like, unless you want the absolute best. If you want the absolute best, then sure, go get an Elgato or one of the higher end cards. Get a PCI Express card, you know, if you want the absolute best. But if you just need something to make your camera into a webcam, I don't see the point in spending $130 or $160, depending on what product you get, or $180 technically for the HD60, if you just need to do a simple capture over HDMI. Anyway, that's my thoughts on this thing. It's pretty awesome. I'm surprised by it. For me personally, I'm still going to hang on to this, because in the future, I do plan on doing some live streaming, and if I want to do an unboxing, it'd be cool just to have a second capture card, and that way I can use my other camera as like a close-up angle. Like if I'm doing an unboxing, or, you know, I want to capture the table like I did in this video, I can do that live now. So this is still worth having to me. It didn't serve the purpose that I originally bought it for, but it's still a very cool device, and it's hard not to recommend it, especially at this price. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to tell a friend, tell a coworker, like, share, and subscribe, and make sure to always do at least 2 things at the same time. Peace. If we're looking at $60, it's still a lot less, even in comparison. It's still a lot less, even in